And away we go. As always, before starting with what's going on in the news, that's just a review of all the messages in the Discord group chat with me, Riss, and Eric, and looking at what we've seen on social media and what our reactions to it are. As of this recording, so much news has come out against Jeffrey Epstein, many of the notorious things he has done, and of course, let's not forget to mention that there have been many politicians, celebrities, powerful elites, and other notable people who have been affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. People are finding out about those people's affiliation with Epstein, and they're going to be paying a very hefty price. Everyone is absolutely outraged, and that is what Eric Taylor has sent to the chat. It's a post from Twitter X that reads, "Breaking: Trump is preparing to be impeached in 20." There has been more information about the Epstein files being released. So Eric has posted something regarding the impeachment of Donald Trump, which, in my opinion, is very unlikely to happen. Because if the last two times people in the House of Representatives and the Senate tried to impeach him, didn't go according to plan, what makes people think this time is going to work? To impeach Trump at this point in his second term, in fact, any other point is very unlikely. The chances of Trump getting impeached again is very, very low. Because if the last two times didn't go according to plan, what makes people think this time will work? I had a look at the Twitter X post myself, and I also shared a message from a Twitter X user asking Grok for any sources, and the post in question that I shared showed that response by Grok, saying, "No confirmed sources for Trump, quote-unquote, preparing for a 2027 impeachment. Speculation exists, like in The Hill, January 5th, 2026, on potential if Democrats gain House control. Other reports tie to Epstein files or past threats, but nothing breaking today. Search shows mostly hypotheticals." And that's it. That's what Grok had to say in regards to that Twitter X post. Make of that information you will. You don't have to agree with it. If there isn't anything else, any more information regarding Trump or Epstein files and whatnot, then as it stands now, there isn't any other information. If anyone else wants to contribute to providing additional information, they can do so. There's nothing stopping these people. In fact, I want to see how this goes. I want to see more information about this. Because, oh boy, the popcorn is already cooking up. It's going to be quite the ride. And of course, just earlier in the day, Eric Taylor did share more stuff about the Epstein files. Another Twitter X post with the caption reading, "Sneeko was intrigued with Epstein's facial expression when he told there's something quote-unquote deeply fucked up about him. It's beautiful in an art way. I literally saw all of the horrible things he's done." That's what the caption reads. Just the caption alone is, in my opinion, just enough to get an understanding of what Epstein could have said, but more importantly, how Epstein thinks of the situation. There's no other words. And the account that posted that video with that caption is Sneeko Daily at Halalco. So that's the account that shared that post about Epstein's facial expressions. Eric Taylor shared another Twitter X post by the account name of Crypto Rover at Crypto Rover. The caption reads, "Breaking. Growing number of Americans believe Joe Biden performed better as president than Donald Trump." And Risk11 in the chat had a lot to say. He said, "I disagree. He definitely handled China better than Biden. They're complaining short term, but long term, Trump's policies will benefit USA. It will lead to more companies moving back to USA, creating jobs. Because of Trump's policies, he got Canadians auto sector to leave Canada. Because of his policies, he gotten Diageo to bottle in USA, move Crown Royal to USA. Eric Taylor replied, "Yeah, I would definitely say that Biden was not really doing anything during his term, and people are jumping the gun on Trump during his first year back." Risk 11 replied, "He got an oil and gas pipeline that were to be built in Canada to move to USA. He single-handedly taken away any leverage Canada has against the USA. That's why he took Venezuela. It renders Canada oil null and void, plus all the other natural resources. It has largest diamond reserves." His words, not mine, of Risk 11. Eric Taylor replied, "I'm neutral about Trump, so I'm going to say that people are too quick to say that Trump is doing a bad job." I'm not saying I agree with Eric here, but he does have a point. And the same can be said for anything else. Even if things do look bad, and people have said something that certainly not many people agree with, we can't always just jump to conclusions instantly. We gotta at least give it a week, maybe a month after whatever's been reported to see if any more information in regards to the story in question does come out. And if there are even more information that gives a clearer picture of something, then yeah, then we can form our opinions. But otherwise, don't just say something from face value. Don't just say anything that's from a simple news headline. Even if it is true, there is more than just a headline. That is what I would say. Risk 11 then shared a screenshot showing overview of Venezuela's natural resources. Venezuela is rich in natural resources, primarily known for its vast oil reserves. The country has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, estimated at approximately 303 billion barrels. This resource has historically been the backbone of its economy. Key natural resources, and then there's a table showing the resources in Venezuela, I presume. So resource, crude oil, estimated reserves, 303 billion barrels. World ranking, number 1. Natural resource, so next resource is natural gas. Estimated reserves / resources of natural gas. I believe that reads 5.5 trillion cubic meters. Yeah, the number reads 5,511 billion, but since there's a comma there, I'd assume that 5,511 billion would mean 5.5 trillion cubic meters. World ranking, number 8. Next resource, gold. Estimated reserves / resources of gold, 2,343 tons. World ranking, not listed. Nothing shows. Resource, iron. Estimated reserves / resources of iron, 958 billion tons. World ranking, number 8. Next resource in Venezuela, coal. Estimated reserves / resources of coal, 3 billion tons. World ranking, 27. Next resource, bauxite. Estimated reserves / resource of bauxite, significant deposits. That literally, that's what it says. There isn't a clear figure on that. World ranking, it does not show. And then final resource on that table for Venezuela resources, diamonds. Estimated reserves / resources of diamonds reads largest reserves globally. No figure, it just says it has the largest reserves of diamonds across the world. And of course, there is no world ranking on that. So that's the screenshot that Risk 11 had shared in the chat. Eric then replied, "Even my sister still think that Obama did a good job, but I just let it slide because it'll create something unnecessary, especially knowing what I know about Obama now. And then I replied, even if people believe Biden did something, it is more of the case of what his department secretaries had done, as well as the people who were supervising Biden. And I know a lot of people will be saying that Biden doesn't know where he is half the time. I can't argue with that. That is actually true most of the time. But that's not to say he can't form sentences and be able to communicate with people. He can. It's just, and I would also say the same with Trump. We come to a point in our lives that our physical ability and our psychological capacity starts to decline. Again, what I say about Biden, about not knowing where he is half the time, I'd say the same with Trump. The only difference is Trump has the ability to talk a lot more wumbo jumbo than Biden did. And of course, even if it's true that the department secretaries under the Biden administration did more of a job than what Biden said he would have done, and especially the people that were keeping an eye on Biden. I'm not just talking about the Secret Service. I think there have been times, just can't think from the top of my head, there have been times he did say, we need to do this, we have to do that. There have been times Biden has done all that stuff. Is at a point, Biden is just at a point at his life during his presidency that we're not as sharp as we used to. So even if there have been things that have not gone so well whilst Biden was president, I'm not going to be too hard on him. He did the best that he could. And of course, people are not going to agree with Biden, and a lot of people say Biden did not a good job. I'm not going to argue about it. Everyone is entitled to their opinions. Biden is at a point in his life that his abilities physically and psychologically are on a gradual decline. And to the best of his ability, Biden did whatever he could. I'll leave it at that. So resuming with the responses regarding what people think of Biden performing as president over Trump, I said, even Biden did something. It's more of the case of what department secretaries had done, as well as people who were supervising Biden. Then responded, Republicans are setting things up so that USA will be better off 10, 20 years from now. He taking US on a path reindustrialization, oil gas drilling, building cars, building steel, building semiconductor, building chip manufacturing. But everyone short-sighted, anyone that's intelligent can see what's happening will benefit financially. And yeah, that's all there is to that discussion about what Eric Taylor said about Americans believing Joe Biden performed better as president than Donald Trump. And even if people are pointing to what Trump has done during his second term, or even his first term, you can't just say that the president in power has done everything that's been put in place. Both Biden and Trump has appointed people in specific government departments to carry out duties in particular sectors. That's not to say that the president of the United States doesn't have ideas for the country. There are people within the current and previous administration that has done all the discussions, the planning, and the outlines for what each sector should go ahead with and providing the services and the goods to American people. Next, I shared something from Instagram Threads, and it shows Jeffrey Epstein with two young boys. And at first, I replied in the chat, by the way, saying, "The duck is this." Yo, what the duck is this? I asked. In the Instagram thread, there are four pictures. The first picture is, of course, Jeffrey Epstein with the two young boys. The second picture is the same two boys, but slightly older, but yet somewhat youthish in their adolescence. And then the third picture is, again, the same boys. However, given their hairstyle, I'm starting to think they look familiar somehow. And then I scroll down to the fourth and final picture, realizing it's the Island Boys. Oh my gosh. The Island Boys with Jeffrey Epstein. So I guess the nickname Island Boys isn't just coincidence. There's a reference to it. Oh my gosh. Good grief. The Island Boys. Who would have thought? The Island Boys. Goodness me. Okay, so as I was reacting to what I just said on from Instagram threads about the Island Boys being young boys in a picture with Jeffrey Epstein, Eric Taylor has recently shared another Twitter X post, and the caption reads, "Breaking: Political commentator Jack Shields revealed the quote-unquote homosexuality of streamer Nick Fuentes. Quoted, I've ignored him being homosexual. I know things that I'm not sure I'll share, but we all know this is true. ... We all knew, we just liked what he was saying," explained Shields. Personally, I don't have a strong opinion about whatever people's homosexuality is, or what people's sexuality is, so long as they live life and we all continue to contribute in our local communities and society. And in my experience, I do have people who are gay, lesbian, and trans. And in my opinion, and from my experience, they're kind of cool. But that's just me. So, so from that Twitter X post, I'm to assume that Nick Fuentes has come out of the closet saying he's gay now. Again, I don't have strong opinions. If Nick Fuentes wants to share that with the world, then good for him. Otherwise, life goes on. People are going to have second thoughts about Nick Fuentes because of him being gay. So what? Is that really the big issue in today's world? What about affording necessities? What about buying groceries? Paying for the gas and electricity in our homes? The wars that are ongoing, aren't they important? And again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about the LGBT community. It is important. Whilst we have our differences, and we certainly do not agree with other people's lifestyle choices, we cannot be divided amongst our identities. We should be united to take a stance against issues that are against our own interests. That's all I will say. Everyone's gonna have their own opinions about what choices people make, what goes behind the bedrooms. At the end of the day, do people agree with these people? Do people agree with the commentators that are speaking about what goes on in the world? Is there attention being brought up about issues in today's society? And most importantly, is there a dialogue? And I'm not just talking about I'm aware this is happening. This has to stop. Is there action being taken to combat against the issues that are going on? If not, then whatever that you're saying doesn't mean anything. It barely means diddly squat. Next thing that's been shared on the group chat, I've shared a YouTube video by the channel EU Made Simple showing a four-tier European Union. I responded in the chat with, although unlikely now, it's still possible at some point in the future. And I think it will happen at some point. Just not now, or this year, and maybe not this decade. But at some point, it's a multi-tier European Union is likely to form. Of course, Risk 11, no surprise, he responded with, fuck you at that point, bring back British Empire. Classic Risk. He's very nostalgic and patriotic for the British Empire. Alright, and just before getting into what else is in the news, I came across another Twitter X post in regards to your party, led by, well, mostly Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not sure if Zara Sultana is also the leader in that. However, nonetheless, your party, founded by Jeremy Corbyn and Sarah Sultana, they put out a statement regarding the Gorton and Denton by-election. And the statement reads, "The single greatest threat to this country right now is a far-right reform government. This danger is being actively facilitated by a failing Labour government, which is prioritising the interests of the rich and powerful over ordinary people struggling to make ends meet. Your party is currently holding our first leadership elections, after which the work of formally constituting branches will begin. In this context, after consultation with local members, we do not believe that your party candidacy would serve our collective goals in this by-election. It is imperative that reform is defeated in Gorton and Denton, and the far-right tide is beaten back. To that end, we will actively mobilise against the far-right, even as we continue to build a mass party that can elect socialist and anti-war candidates across the country." Yeah, I don't think the lads responded to that. So yeah, that's all the recent stuff that me and the lads have shared in the group chat for discussions and reactions and whatnot. I have my doubts on a lot of things that's been shared. Nonetheless, there will be people that will say otherwise. That is the world and how it functions. With that being said, let's see what goes on in the news. Bill and Hillary Clinton to appear in Jeffrey Epstein depositions later this month. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton finalized an agreement with House Republicans Tuesday to testify in a House investigation into Jeffrey Epstein this month, bowing to the threat of a contempt of Congress vote against them. Hillary Clinton will testify before the House Oversight Committee on February 26th, and Bill Clinton will appear on February 27th. It will mark the first time that lawmakers have compelled a former president to testify. The arrangement comes after months of negotiating between the two sides as Republicans sought to make the Clintons a focal point in a House committee's investigation into Epstein, a convicted sex offender who killed himself in a New York jail cell in 2019, and Ghislaine Maxwell, his former girlfriend. We look forward to now questioning the Clintons as part of our investigation into the horrific crimes of Epstein and Maxwell, to deliver transparency and accountability for the American people and for survivors. Representative James Comer, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, said in a statement. For months, the Clintons resisted. Let's see how this goes. If they are convicted and found guilty for their affiliations with Jeffrey Epstein, then they will get the punishment that reflects their actions. At this point, any punishment is inevitable. Whoever's responsible for the committee, the queries, oversight, discussions, whoever's going to be in that room discussing about what's going on with Epstein and the Clintons, their affiliations, and so on, there isn't much of a choice for anyone on either end. They hand themselves in and then face the punishment that they'll be given that reflects their actions in affiliation with Epstein. There is no other way out of this. There is no other options left. It's all over the place. Goodness. What is there to happen next? Who knows? Disney names Parks chief Josh D'Amaro as its next CEO. Disney has appointed Josh D'Amaro as its next CEO, succeeding Bob Iger as a closely watched succession race. The Disney board, led by James Gorman, vetted candidates primarily from Disney's executive ranks for the top job. Bob Iger expressed confidence in Disney's changes over the last 3 years, and its future success. The new CEO will face challenges including declines in linear television and rising sports rights costs as Disney transitions to its next phase. New CEO of Disney, Josh D'Amaro. I wonder what Risk and Eric are going to think of this. I will share it with them to see what they think of this. It'll be a while. We'll see. Looks like Josh has big shoes to fill. Now, can't say there won't be much of a difference under Josh D'Amaro as the CEO of Disney. Yet there won't be much similarities either. Something something will be noticeably different as the years go by, with Josh as the new CEO. Only time will tell to see what goes on. Elon Musk's SpaceX to acquire xAI, creating world's most valuable private company. On the 2nd of February 2020, Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX, announced merging SpaceX with xAI to build orbital AI data centers, combining rocket capabilities with AI technology. Musk said the plan will harness orbital solar power to meet AI computing electricity demands, while avoiding hardship on Earth and supporting Mars settlement ambitions. Using its reusable rockets and Starlink scale, SpaceX plans 1 million satellites as data centers, supported by Starship's goal of one flight per hour carrying payload. SpaceX is reportedly targeting a mid-June IPO that could raise $50 billion, with Bloomberg estimating the combined valuation at $1.25 trillion, and XAI valued at $230 billion. Neither financial terms nor a deployment timeline were disclosed, and the deal further intertwines Musk's business empire, including Tesla and Twitter X, amid AI funding strains. I can't say I was predicting something like this was going to happen. Again, I'm not surprised that comes a point a billionaire is going to eventually merge a couple of their existing assets together and use the capabilities from said assets to further expand advantages for the other assets to do a lot more in their current capabilities, as well as hello Eric.
Hey, what's up?
Not much.
Oh, what are we
I was
talking about?
just Elon Musk, SpaceX to acquire xAI, creating world's most valuable private company.
Okay, let's hear more.
So, 2nd of February 2020, Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX, announced merging SpaceX with xAI to build Orbital's AI data centers, combining rocket capabilities with AI technology. Musk said the plan will harness orbital solar power to meet AI computing electricity demands, while avoiding hardship on Earth and supporting Mars settlement ambitions. Using its reusable rockets and Starlink scale, SpaceX plans 1 million satellites as data centers, supported by Starship's goal of one flight per hour carrying payload. SpaceX is reportedly targeting a mid-June IPO that could raise $50 billion, with Bloomberg estimating the combined valuation at $1.25 trillion, and xAI valued at $230 billion. Neither financial terms nor a deployment timeline were disclosed, and the deal further intertwines Musk's business empire, including Tesla and Twitter X, amid AI funding strains.
And what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not surprised. There was going to come to a point that a billionaire is going to merge one or two of their assets together to use the capability of asset B to further advance asset A, and vice versa. It has now happened, and now with that being in play and the assets of xAI and SpaceX becoming one somehow, from what I've just read, only time will tell. And if there was any deadlines. Not that things are going to be done quickly. There should be more efficiency in tasks to be completed beyond previous deadlines.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else in the news?
There should be, yes. US shoots down Iranian drone approaching aircraft carrier, official says.
Drone being shot down?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, let's hear more. Let's see what this is about.
A US Navy fighter jet shot down an Iranian drone approaching the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. The drone continued approaching the ship despite de-escalation attempts by US forces in international waters. Hours later, Iranian forces harassed a US-flagged merchant vessel sailing in the Strait of Hormuz.
What is with all these? You know what? Granted for me, it's been a while since I've heard about a drone, but why? I mean, I don't know. It's what's with these drones? Like, what are they trying to achieve specifically with these drones? Are they trying to get something, or are they just flying these drones to fly these drones?
I'd assume people fly these drones in particular airspaces for purpose of surveillance, navigating the terrain, or maybe they're trying to get sensitive information about the opposing side in which they are spying on, perhaps.
Honestly, who knows at this point? I don't know. They use drones for a lot of things, honestly, and it's just I don't know. At this point, I really don't. I really wouldn't know what to say about these drones because it's I don't know. It's like you hear about them all the time, but it's like, do they really do anything? Is there afterwards? It's like nothing else happens after that. It's definitely something to I guess ponder on. I don't know.
Who knows what the true intentions of these drones could have been? Regardless, something has to be done. Military has taken them down, and there's nothing else that these drone operators could do now.
Okay, fine, good. Okay, fine, good. Now, wait until we hear about the next drone. Wait until we hear about the next drone the next month. Then, yeah, that's gonna be exciting. But is there anything else in the news?
Bill Blair resigning seat will become next High Commissioner to UK.
Okay, let's hear more about that.
Former Cabinet Minister Bill Blair will resign his Toronto seat in the House of Commons to take on a new role as Canada's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Mark Carney is also appointing his National Security Advisor, Nathalie Drouin, as Canada's ambassador to France and Monaco. The appointments fill two vacancies for political appointments, with Stéphane Dion having ended his term in Paris and Ralph Goodale concluding his London posting.
What are your thoughts on that?
Life goes on.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, what else can you really do? Life honestly does go on after that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what are you really gonna do about that?
That is very true.
Yeah, we just have to hope. We just have to honestly just hope for the best. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Hmm. But yeah, what else is in the news?
Heavy snowfall along Sea of Japan coast claims at least 30.
Heavy snow claimed it caught people died because of heavy snow in Japan. 30 people?
Yeah, that's at least what the headline says.
Yikes. Well, may God rest their soul. Well, may God rest their souls. Then, man. I mean, that's all I gotta say about that. I mean, 30 lives. That's crazy. I mean,
Yes.
I'll be honest. Maybe they were driving or something. I don't know. I don't know. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine snow taking snow taking a life in the midst of someone just standing there, unless they got hypothermia. But other than that, yeah, it's wow. And I thought New York was terrible. There's still snow. There's still some snow outside too. Now, I mean,
Blimey.
granted, I can walk. Huh?
I said blimey.
Yeah, it's granted, I can walk now, but it took about a week. It took about a week for it to happen, and on top of that, it's they're kind of just they're kind of just dumping the excess snow like either on the side or like just, and it's barely melting, and I'm trying to wait. I'm just waiting for it to rain or something because it's like all the snow is dirty, and I'm kind of tired of looking at it. I'm gonna be honest. I'm tired of looking at it. It's like it's fine when the snow is like just it's all white and clean, but it's like once the snow gets dirty and it's like okay, I'm tired of looking at that. Like I need something like make it rain, literally make it do anything. But it's like I just don't want to. Plus there are people's cars who are stuck in the snow too, so it's like that's also not ideal. Kind of glad I don't have a car. And if I did have a car, I'd rather put it in a garage or something. If I had a garage, but you know, huh? It's just unfortunate for those people in Japan who lost their lives to that huge snowstorm. Didn't even, to be honest, didn't even know it hit Japan. Also, I bet their system of getting rid of snow is better though.
Yeah,
I'd hope.
I'll take any amount of snow because I haven't seen snow since last year in January. January last year. That's the last time I've seen
Really?
any amount of snow, even the ice sheets. That's the last time I've seen snow, or any amounts of it in my neighborhood.
Oh wow. I'll be honest. If I didn't have three dogs, I wouldn't have went outside in the snow. If I'm being very honest there. I wouldn't have went outside at all. I would have just watched from the house and be like, "Whoa, this is beautiful." Wouldn't have went out the house in at all in the slightest, unless I was getting something to eat or going to an interview or something. Either way, you wouldn't have seen me you wouldn't have seen me out of the house. Being very honest. But yeah, like I like snow when I don't have to go out in it. Shoot, if I got stuck in the house because of snow, shoot, I don't care as long as I have enough food. I would not care if I got stuck in the house because of snow. I really wouldn't care. It really hasn't snowed for you this year though, at all,
Well, parts in the UK have snowed, just
or
not where
even
I'm from,
that's
which is very strange because I live further up north. Like I live further up, more up in the north of England than people living in Birmingham, London, of course, Cornwall, and anywhere else in the southern coast. And yet they still get even a slightest amount of snow. Yet where I'm from, in the north of England, barely anything. Madness.
I mean, I will say this though. Yeah, I mean it is definitely madness. That is kind of weird though.
At least Norway's been generous with
I will
giving
say
their
that
snow
is
away.
giving their snow away.
Yeah, at least Norway's been generous with giving their snow away in recent years. I'll give them that.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Okay, okay, that's something. Oh, but yeah. Is there anything else in the news?
NASA halts Artemis 2 fueling test after hydrogen leak detected.
Hmm. All right, let's hear more.
On Monday, NASA halted fueling of the Space Launch System rocket at Kennedy Space Center after detecting a hydrogen leak and ended the countdown with around 5 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. At an umbilical plate where a fuel line from the launch pad connects to the SLS rocket's first stage, engineers found a leak after the tank was about 55% and 77% full, using workaround methods from the maiden flight to reseat seals. Teams had loaded more than 700,000 gallons of propellant into the 322-foot SLS rocket, while the Artemis 2 crew monitored remotely from Houston after quarantining since January. With the countdown halted, the countdown ended before the rocket switched to internal power, or activated auxiliary power unit. Launch controllers began draining the SLS propellant tanks, and NASA managers scheduled a Tuesday press briefing to review early test results. With February tight window, the Artemis 2 mission faces launch dates of February 8th, 10th, with March 6th to 9th and March 11th available if delays persist.
Hmm. I don't really know what to say about that. Do you?
I don't have much to say on this. It is Actually, no. This is open to interpretation. People could say, "Oh, they're being very cautious about the launch." Fair enough. On the other hand, people could be saying they're delaying the launch, so they don't have to show footage of the rocket actually going out to space, if that is even possible, they say.
Yeah, I definitely do say that. I mean, like, once again, it's like you said. Well, I don't know what to say, but yeah, it's like you said, it's up for interpretation. It could definitely be the last thing, so they won't have to show us, and so they won't have to show us that, like, going to space is absolutely fake because it's never happened in human history whatsoever, and they just faked it. But that's besides the point. I'll be honest, unrelated to, but I think I saw this one video on Instagram where it's like, pretty much like it said something along the lines of like, photos being faked over history. But, I don't really have substantial evidence to even talk about that. But yeah, just like that was faked. If it is faked, so is the space launching. So is, like, going to space in general. That, like, yeah. Yeah, I still wholeheartedly believe that, like, them going to space never happened in the slightest whatsoever because, there's no proof. And, whatever excuses they make on why they're not going to space now, I'll be honest, it would have made more sense if they waited years. No, if they waited up until now to say we're finally going to go to space, then fake it. But they had to fake it but they had to fake it back then. They had to fake it back then. Why? I don't know. Well, there were even some astronauts, like, back then. I think there was this one guy who interviewed, like, the people who were involved in the space, in, like, going to space, quote unquote. And there was this one dude who, like, told them to swear on the Bible and, like, say that they went to space. He said that, like, not all of them didn't do it, but it's like one guy did it, and, like, but he knew that guy was full of it. He knew that guy was full of it because, like, the rest of them couldn't do it because they at least had some form of at least had some form of conviction. They knew they didn't do it. And this one guy who didn't believe in in the Bible, and it's like, he swore on it, and, like, but even the guy, like, he knew that guy was full of it because it didn't happen. And yeah, most of these people are full of it. No one ever went to space. And not to say that there isn't a space, I'm just saying it never happened. I believe there's a space. I believe there's something out there. But it never happened. No one ever went there. I don't know. I still believe that they called a planet Uranus as a sick joke. Like, come on, really? Uranus? I still think that's a sick joke. That's a sick joke they did on purpose. Yeah, what else in the news?
Just checking. Yada yada yada.
Huh. Hulk Hogan's son Nick was seen at the Performance Center this week. Huh. Interesting. Hulk Hogan's son.
Speaker Johnson faces tough choices as partial government shutdown drags and debate over ice deepens.
Interesting. Let's hear more.
House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters he is talking to lawmakers to gain support for a federal funding package amid a partial shutdown, with a vote expected soon. House Republicans and the Freedom Caucus insist on fuller Homeland Security funding and want provisions like the SAFE Act complicating agreement, while Democrats demand restraints on ICE beyond $20 million for body cameras, including agent identification and ending roving patrols. Multiple federal agencies face shutdown guidance, with the Federal Emergency Management Agency likely affected after storms and federal workers risking unpaid status if the impasse continues. A Monday afternoon committee meeting will test Johnson's GOP majority after Democrats refuse votes. And the Senate approved temporary DHS funding to February 13th sets a legislative deadline. Senator Chris Murphy said, "What is happening in Minnesota right now is a dystopia, and House Democrats leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York urged immediate DHS reform.
Hmm. Hmm. Any thoughts?
It's gonna happen.
Hmm. You think? You think it's gonna
Yeah,
happen? How so?
yes. I'm talking about the government shutdown. It won't be as long as the last government shutdown in Trump's second term. It will at least last at least 2 to 3 days if another government shutdown does happen. And during that time, not much money in the federal level government is going to be spent on anything. Federal workers aren't going to be paid if a government shutdown happens.
How many times has this happened? I feel like this has happened multiple times already, and it hasn't even been that long.
I remember in Trump's first term, a government shutdown did happen in Trump's first term. Another government shutdown happened in Trump's second term, which is actually the longest government shutdown in US history. And again, we're in Trump's second term. If another government shutdown is to happen, which is likely to happen, it will last up to a week.
So this is just simply the term of, so every time when Trump's in, like, a government shutdown is inevitably gonna happen.
Well, government shutdowns happen when the House of Representatives don't agree on any bills on being passed. Now, Trump doesn't want a government shutdown, but if it does happen, it'd be down to the fact that the House of Representatives are refusing to agree on passing new pieces of legislation, which then goes on to the Senate and then gets down to the Oval Office for Trump to sign. And then, of course, with the government shutdown and House of Representatives not going in the House of Representatives to negotiate or propose on new legislation, whatever money is being funneled into the federal government budget, none of that is going to be spent on anything.
I guess we'll have to see what happens next.
Indeed, we do.
But that's all I can say. In today's news, man from out of town says New Yorkers won't speak or interact with you compared to other states he's been to. I'm from New York, and that's just sad. But kind of true, actually. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I think some of them will interact and say hey to you, but it's like, other than that, most New Yorkers are just, they're just cold. I mean, like, even still, it's like, when I see something, when I see someone that if you're not like a crackhead or anything like that, who just wants money to buy crack, I'll acknowledge you. I'll say hey. If you say, if you genuinely need help or anything like that, it's just kind of sad. Man, I gotta get out of the city. It'll happen. I just don't know when. Elon Musk is furious at Donald Trump for releasing the Epstein files. I don't know. I don't know why, and frankly, don't care. Well, no, I mean, I care, but it's like, I don't care if he's upset. I mean, but it is what it is. Is there
And it
anything else
was
in the
what it
news?
was. I think.
Yeah. All right. Peace.
Peace.